everybody, and welcome back to the Orlando Premier Challenge. Right now, we're going to be getting into our round 4, and I think after that, we only have one more round of Swiss until our top cut.
Yeah, I do believe that is the case, and we are looking at quite the tournament already. I think we have a lot of really interesting 3-0s at the moment that are basically in, but we're really lining up for something pretty interesting. I know our current game is going to be Hunter Braun and what was the other name? What was the other name? Braden Cosley? Yeah, Braden Cosley. And now we're going to get to see them. And, they're currently getting lined up now. But, as I've said, we've seen a lot of really interesting things today. We have, again, some really awesome players that have come out. And, it's been really just generally awesome to see, how many people have turned out here to Orlando.
It has just been such a nice turnout for the Florida VGC scene. And I feel like that this is just such a stacked competition. And I really feel like that we have just so many great players that it could honestly be anyone's tournament.
It really is. It's a very, very stacked tournament. And I mean, 30 people for a PC in Florida is a massive amount of people, especially when I do believe we have a good bit of activity this weekend. Some stuff going on down south, down in Fort Lauderdale and things like that. And, Maitland's a great place for all of us North Florida folks and Mid-Florida folks. I do think that there's, a lot of reason to come out here and a lot of, fun to be had beyond the shadow of a doubt. And, I mean, we've already seen some genuinely awesome games here today.
Exactly, especially that Riley Factura match. It was just with Elijah, and even that Alex Ortega match with Brendan. I have loved getting to see just how creative these players are and just how calculated they are.
Absolutely, and we've seen some super creative team building, I think, here today. I mean, we have seen a good bit of, Dragonite and Chien-Pao, and that's great. We've seen a good bit of it, and it works for a reason. It's always going to be good. It's so much physical damage that it's very hard to counter that, it's hard to turn down. And I'm pretty excited to see, how much Pao-Knight we've seen running around. And then in terms of other things, like I said, we've seen a Screamtail on Brendan's team. We've seen some very interesting sets. We've seen, Landorus Incarnate. Just mons we don't get to see every day. And, stuff that it's working too. It's not just anything. It's stuff that's carrying these players forward, and it really gets me excited for what's to come as we transition into the second half of this tournament, and really now we're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Right, and it is just so exciting to see mons that you wouldn't typically see on let's say your everyday good stuffs team, but they have really proven themselves to be good mons. Even the Milotic on Adrian's side in round 1, I feel really did put a lot of work in with those icy wins. And then the Landorus Incarnate on Zachary's side on that same match, I feel those two are not mons that you hear about and mons that you'll see once in a blue moon in a regional stream. But I just feel that it was so nice to see them.
I don't know where Landorus Incarnate came from, though. I have no idea who was talking about that. That was a pretty interesting thing.
Right.
I think that has been probably my most hyped thing for the day, is I just really look forward to seeing that. So now we're seeing our two players, line up. We got Braden Kolsick and Hunter Braun. Yeah, they're all waving at the screen and everything. Hunter's looking all cool here. And, we have a lot to offer in terms of, a lot of really good things and on both players' sides. I'm really happy to see Chi-Yu.
Yes, I am so excited to see Chi-Yu.
That's my favorite little guy right there. And so we're looking at Landorus Therian, Chi-Yu, Fluttermane, Tornadus, Iron Hands, and Ogerpon over on Braden's side. And then Tornadus, Rillaboom, Urshifu, Fluttermane, Golden-Go, and Hisuian Arcanine over on Hunter's side. Now, I do think, no matter what you guys are seeing on screen, there is no single strike Urshifus in this tournament. It's all rapid strike. So, it's going to be pretty interesting. Now, in terms of the interesting mons here, honestly, Chi-Yu is getting my attention.
Yes.
I'm just happy to see Chi-Yu whenever she wants to present herself to us. I really like to see, what she can bring to a team, and, the amount of special damage that Chi-Yu puts on the field. It's just Chien-Pao but special. And next to Fluttermane, who is also such a massive threat, it's a huge deal, and I love to see those two together especially.
Yes, and Fluttermane and Chi-Yu was such a popular lead back in Reg C, and I feel it still holds up. Even now, we are 2 regulations ahead. I just feel that with the special defense drop that Chi-Yu provides, it makes sure that Fluttermane is able to get those hard-hitting KOs, and Chi-Yu is even able to pack a punch as well.
I know of very few things that are able to survive a Terra Fairy Moon blast when Chi-Yu's out on the field.
Exactly. It is just so hard.
Absolutely, yeah. And so now we're taking a look over at our players, and they're both feeling pretty fine. I'm really happy to see there's a lot of laughing and smiles between the two of them, and they're both ready to go. They're ready to duke it out. This game's important for both of them. I believe they are both 2-1 right now, and this game matters for them. They have to whoever gets this is probably in top cut. It's all about getting that 3-1. You just got to do well, and this game is pretty pivotal for both players, and it's really great to see they're both coming into this with really good attitudes. I'm really happy to see they're both as happy as they are, and I like to see that sportsmanship. I like to see the community part of Pokemon, and that's what I look forward to, and that's why I love playing in this stuff. It's just fun to we go back and forth with these guys and joke about our teams and talk about it and go over it after it's all done, because you don't want people figuring out your EV spreads, but you know what I mean.
Right. And I feel like that just adds so much to the overall vibe of a battle, is if you are just having good sportsmanship and you're even if you don't talk a ton, just exchanging good luck, have funs, and I don't know.
We gotta make an eyes to the camera right now. He's out here playing onto the stream. He's got it.
But I don't know. I just feel that just adds so much to it, and even though yes, this is a very critical match, I'm just happy that they're both just having fun.
Absolutely. They both got eyes on the camera right now. They know they got a lot of eyes on them, and that's the thing about stream matches, is there's a good bit of pressure when it comes to them. You got to play well, you don't want to make any mistakes. You want to just play good, and even if you go down, you want to have a good time. And I think I immediately get that vibe from both of these guys, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Right, exactly. And I am just so excited to see both of their teams. And I noticed that on Braden's team, he's actually sporting a Tornadus with Terra Poison.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Poison's such a great defensive type. It's pretty hard to sneeze at. It's pretty awesome. I've used it a couple times, and it survives a lot of things it shouldn't.
Yes, especially with Grass being so good in this meta is definitely really, really nice, especially even with Fairy.
Absolutely, yeah. And and not only this game, but many other games that we have going on, in the room today, is there's a lot of 2-1s, and a lot of these matches really matter. This is one of the most important rounds of the tournament, maybe aside from round 1, where you set up your own momentum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because even if you do take a round 1 loss, you could even win the rest of your games.
Yeah, it's big time. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting ready. They're both selecting their Mons, and, we're pretty much ready to go for the most part. I'm hoping to see Hunter maybe bring that Golden Go. I really want to see some Gold. I just love Golden Go. I think he's pretty funny. As well as, I think Urshifu is going to carry anybody far. Whereas over on Braden's side, again, she used my baby, and, I kind of want to see some Therian Landorus action. We haven't got to see a ton of it today. I know it's a pretty powerful, of course, Mon, and we know what it does, but I still like to see what it does best. And this may not be too bad of a situation for it to do that. If just by taking a glance at their sheets, there's quite a few Mons here that really can handle it well. So yeah, alrighty, we are entering our first game. We have the leads of Urshifu and Tornadus over on Hunter's side. And over on Braden's side, we got Tornadus and Chi-Yu.
So I think that this is a really good lead for both of these trainers, even though that Chi-Yu is very much threatened by that Rapid Strike Urshifu. I do feel like a switch into something like the Wellspring Ogerpon would really benefit that Chi-Yu into not getting, basically one-hit KO'd.
Absolutely, yeah. So, there's quite a few good options here for both players. I mean, they both got Tornadus, and the Tornadus mirror is, pretty important for any Tornadus, I suppose. You kind of want to, there's always the speed creep you got to consider.
Yes.
You do both have the priority taunts. I don't know if, are they both running taunt? Yeah, we got taunt over on that one, and taunt over on...
We actually have Scary Face on the other Tornadus.
When it comes down to that, then it does seem like the Tornadus with taunt. I mean, it's the reason Tornadus brings taunt. It's such a good move to have in general. But it goes for the Bleak Wind Storm. It does a significant amount of damage to Urshifu. Also getting the speed drop over on Tornadus, which actually could be pretty lethal when it comes down to getting even a Tailwind off. Which, it seems like Braden knows that, and I think he could definitely take advantage of that here if he's, as long as he knows what he's doing here.
Yes, and switching into that Water Ogerpon from the Chi-Yu was such a great play on Brayden's side. And I also noticed that Ogerpon is carrying Seed Bomb instead of like a Horn Leech.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't notice that either. So, yeah, I suppose that means that Ogerpon's going to see a pretty nice spike of damage, especially into things like this Urshifu mirror, where, Ogerpon can get a good bit of damage off. We're going to see Hunter send on out Rillaboom, which is a pretty great pick here, both with the Ogerpon already on the field. However, if that Tornadus decides to go for another Bleak Wind, it could be very, very threatening for that Rillaboom. Ogerpon's going to also eat its own Bleak Wind Storm, and it's going to take a pretty good bit, about 2/4 of damage. We're seeing Ivy Cudgel come out to Tornadus, and it just survives! And we're going to see a Bleak Wind Storm come out, and it looks like the Rillaboom missed! That was a huge turn for Brayden. That was a really big deal. So we both saw like a significant amount of damage get put on the field, and it didn't cost Brayden too much there. Rillaboom came out, but ultimately wasn't able to do much. The grassy terrain's there to set up the recovery, but it's going to be a really interesting game to say the least. We're having Chance play some pretty interesting stuff here.
Now that Flutter Mane is going to be coming out onto Hunter's side and is going to be using its booster energy to make its special attack even higher.
Yeah, and that could definitely be a big deal, especially if Chi-Yu would happen to re-enter the field, and that's something that Brayden definitely needs to keep in mind, when switching him in and out, because, you could end up taking a lot more damage than you should from this stuff, especially when Flutter Mane's already boosted special attack with the booster energy. You need to either kill Flutter Mane or, move it in and out so it loses that boost.
Right, exactly. And Flutter Mane Chi-Yu is a great pairing when it's both on your side, but when one of them is on the opposing side, it can kind of not really work in your favor because you're not working around it.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a Fairy Terra come out onto the Flutter Mane now, so we're going to see a pretty good damage spike for the Flutter Mane, and ultimately that could be a pretty big deal here if Hunter takes proper advantage of it. We're going to see Brayden get the Tailwind off, though, even after the fake out. How did he do that?
That is because of Covert Cloak.
Oh, I see. I got the two Tornadoes. Oh my goodness! And Flutter Mane comes out and wipes both Mons on Brayden's side. Hunter has done an excellent job of, resuming kind of, the even pressure that they had here in the beginning. I do believe, though, that, Hunter is really, really putting, so much pressure, on. And with Chi-Yu coming out, yeah, Hands can take what Chi-Yu was accidentally enabling, but it's going to be hard. Hands really has to be very, very bulky here in order to handle that. Now, we do know it's Assault Vest Hands, so it's going to be able to, take it even better, but, again, Terra Fairy Moonblast Flutter Mane is a very scary thing.
Right, exactly, and because it isn't hindered by those choice specs, it is able to switch around its moves, so it could very easily do a Terra Fairy Moonblast, just like what you said.
Absolutely, it can continue to adapt. So we're seeing just a really, close game. I don't know whose game this is. It's genuinely close here.
Because Hunter has put on so much offensive pressure, I feel like.
He clapped back so well. That was so cool to see, is him, come back up and pull himself together. That really made me happy to see.
Yes, it is just so nice to see Tornadus hitting Bleak Wind Storms so hard, even without a sharp beak. It just makes me so happy.
Yeah, you have that sharp beak always on the mind. But yeah, we can see a good bit here. We see Fake Out coming to Flutter Mane. Obviously, that's enabled now by Flutter Mane's, Terra Fairy Moonblast. But Chi-Yu has to eat a Grassy Glide. Now, when it comes down to this, we're going to see Heat Wave come out, and that's going to very much so be lethal here. So Chi-Yu is able to ultimately deal with this stuff, and with the Fake Out from Iron Hands, that's ultimately what let him clean up the game.
Yeah, and that Chi-Yu is choice back, so it is definitely dishing out a lot of damage.
Absolutely, big time. And I do believe that oh, no, I think he still has one more Mon in the back.
Yes, I think he has Urshifu.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're going to see Urshifu come out with very little HP, and it's not looking great here for Urshifu. There's just not much you can do here. So yeah, that will be game one going over to Brayden.
Yeah, I feel like that Chi-Yu was definitely his win condition. Getting that Heat Wave off on both Mons, even though Heat Wave does have the opportunity to miss one, if not both. I feel like getting it on both was such a critical point for him and shifting the board into his favor.
He hit the Bleak Winds, he hit the Heat Waves, and at the end of the day, if you can do that, you can become a big threat. It's just how those moves are. They hit so hard, and they do so much for you. And I believe also the speed drop was probably a pretty big deal in that Tornadus in the early game, where he was really able to kind of get that, get that speed up and everything. And that really ultimately let him be pretty dominant throughout that whole game, despite Hunter, clapping back pretty hard.
Yes, and I feel like that in the beginning it was Hunter's game, but I feel like that Brayden was able to shift it. And I feel like that going into game 2, I feel like even leading with like a Tornadus Chi-Yu could even help with that.
Potentially, but you do got to be careful when it comes to those two because they don't match up super well into a lot of what Hunter can put down. He really needs to be careful, especially about that Golden Go.
Oh, that is fair. I forgot about that Golden Go.
Yeah, which could potentially deal with a lot of what Brayden wants to throw out. But then again, I mean, he has Landorus, he has Chi-Yu. Like, Chi-Yu deals with Golden Go well,
Right.
and you can't be too safe when it comes to that side of things. It's really hard to say, what Hunter could do here to really pull it back. It's not a very easy matchup for him, I don't think. The Chi-Yu versus the Rillaboom is just, a pretty big advantage for Brayden, I think. But I feel like the Urshifu might be the way to go, if I'm being honest. He can really put down a lot of damage. You kind of need more of that physical damage, I think.
Yes.
And I think Urshifu could be the key here, but that's just my guess, of course.
Right. And with Chi-Yu, I mean, obviously water is super effective against it, and it's also not really that bulky. So I feel like that. Oh, and he does go with the Tornadus Chi-Yu lead.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to see Arcanine come out alongside Fluttermane as well. So Fluttermane's going to be getting boosted by that Chi-Yu as well as Tornadus with those Bleak Wind Storms. However, those Bleak Wind Storms are going to be a little bit rougher coming into Arcanine because Arcanine resists it very well. So Arcanine was an absolutely stellar pick here by Hunter.
Yes. Very, very, very well. And he can definitely get some rock slides into the Tornadus and the Chi-Yu.
Absolutely, yeah. And, we have a couple of other things to keep in consideration, too. Chi-Yu does have that Snarl over in its moveset, which could be potentially pretty, very useful against that Fluttermane. But we are going to see a Dark Pulse come out directly into the Arcanine and one-hit KOing it.
Wow.
Golly. I mean, you can't sneeze a Chi-Yu, man. Chi-Yu hits like a freight train. Now we're going to see a Moon Blast fly out into the Chi-Yu instead, and Chi-Yu just survives. It's a pretty big survive. I mean, 22 health isn't, it's still a good bit, but, I would have certainly expected that to kill. We're going to see Urshifu come out over onto Hunter's side, and, we're pretty much stacking up for a pretty interesting game here.
That was a really good turn for Brayden, and I feel like that Chi-Yu, unless it leaves, which it is doing right now, and he is probably going into that Ogerpon Wellspring, I feel like Hunter would have to be really careful to not target that Ogerpon Wellspring. Even though it is still at full health, you kind of lose your Surging Strikes or your Aqua Jet that you're going for.
Absolutely, yeah. And now Urshifu is going to go for the Terra Water Surging Strikes, which it could get a good bit of damage here. But the thing is, it really depends on which slot it's attacking.
Right, and the Fluttermane is going to miss the Bleak Wind Storm, but it is going to do really good damage into the Urshifu.
Yeah, it's a little bit less than 50%, and it does get the speed drop off, which actually can be very significant when it comes to Urshifu.
Right, and that does... Oh, and the Urshifu actually targeted the right slot, and it is going to the Tornadus and definitely going to pick up a KO.
Tornadus is absolutely down here. And now it seems that, Brayden's in a pretty interesting position. He's definitely taking a lot of hits here. Hunter's reacting very well to what he has, but, Brayden has definitely a couple things he could do here to potentially deal with it, and he does have, good things that he could use to deal with that Urshifu threat beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Right, I do feel like that Iron Hands is going to be a really crucial player in the end game because it can do so much damage to both the Urshifu and the Fluttermane.
Absolutely, big time. So we just got to see, how he uses that, and if he's able to. You got to be. There's a lot of very big hitters, especially on the field right now.
Right.
These are four of some of the strongest Mons that you can really see in terms of attack power. Something's going down this turn. And it's going to really be influenced. It's really going to influence how this game's going to proceed.
Right, exactly. And I do feel like that the Protect on the Urshifu was a really good play because Brayden was probably thinking, okay, this Urshifu is going for, let's say, an Aqua Jet or Surging Strikes into my Chi-Yu. So let me follow me and get that Water Absorb in. But Hunter was able to ignore that.
Oh, man. And
wow.
Ogerpon and Chi-Yu go down to that. So now we're definitely seeing some pretty interesting things come out. I wouldn't say that Brayden's necessarily out of this yet. I definitely think, he has some options here. He can really play this right, but he just has to be very careful. And, hopefully his calcs are solid.
Right. I do feel like that he would probably have to go for his Terra here.
Yeah, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Definitely. But yeah, I definitely don't think he's out of the woods quite yet, but I do feel like it is going to be hard for him with the offensive pressure that both Urshifu and Fluttermane are pressuring him.
Absolutely,
with.
yeah. And I mean, you know, it's not too much offensive pressure. And honestly, Iron Hands hits back really hard at both of them. So if Hunter is not careful, he's going to be taking a good bit of damage.
Right, and that Terra Fairy Moonblast does a pretty good chunk of that Iron Hands health. And
we're going to see Flutter eat that heavy slam, and Flutter is out of the game.
All right, so now this Urshifu is probably going to go for a Surging Strikes, which it does.
It's boosted by that water type, but Hands is still really bulky, and, you know, he's kind of ready to take that.
That Terra Grass is honestly such a great defensive Terra for Urshifu, because I feel like that it just, like, is able to take so many things that it would otherwise, like...
For dealing with Urshifu, you mean?
For dealing with Urshifu. And then I feel like also losing the fairy weakness that it has.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, now we're seeing Rillaboom come out. So, you know, again, Iron Hands really does have some really good options here in terms of survivability. Honestly, you know, the recovery would usually be pretty handy here. But it does look like Brendan's going for the forfeit, and I can't blame him. It's a pretty hard position.
Right.
Maybe if Hands had a bit more health, I really feel like Brendan
Yes.
could take that game. Hunter is now writing down his side of things, and he can tell he's feeling pretty confident still
Yes.
carrying in that confidence that he came into this round with, and, you know, I'm happy to see that. It's really good to see him clap back, and, you know, I'm really personally excited by how Hunter's able to clap back. He's
Yes.
able to come back. He's able to, you know, exactly, he's able to claw his way back to win game 2. And, you know, it's a rough matchup. I don't think
Yes.
this is a very easy matchup for Hunter, and
Right.
the fact that he was able to pull that through is very impressive. Now, that's not to sneeze at Braden either. Braden is a very, very good player, and we've already seen him make some genuinely excellent decisions. I really think that, you know, Iron Hands almost could have taken that game. And so I'm just genuinely so excited to see how this game's going to go, and, you know, who's ultimately going to take it.
Right, and we will be getting into our round 3 here game 3 very shortly. And I am very excited to see what both players bring, because I think it honestly could be anyone's game, because we were able to see both the offensive pressures that both players were able to bring in round 1 and in round 2.
Absolutely,
Or game 1 and game 2.
Yeah, big time. And I mean, you know, we have a couple of interesting things to keep in mind. I mean, we need to see, will Hunter be able to, you know, kind of keep this momentum going that, you know, he's built up now, which he seems to be great at building it. He just has to continue to be pretty careful.
Right, exactly. And like, I do think that Braden could, if he still went with the Tornadus and Chi-Yu lead, I still feel like he could be able to put on that offensive pressure. But also, I feel like that if he brought in the Landorus, maybe that could also be a good switch up.
It could potentially, but he does still have to be careful, because Landorus does not match up very well into a lot of what, you know, his opponent's bringing. And, you know, Landorus is not a very bulky mon. And when
Right.
you're dealing with so much speed and so much power, you got to be careful.
Right. I feel like that if you could only get that Urshifu out really early, then Landorus could be able to come in safely. But we are going to be getting a Fluttermane and Tornadus matchup.
Coming in with the Dittos. That's really, really fun. So the Fluttermane over on Hunter's side boosted its special attack, whereas, okay, so now so they both have boosted their special attacks. So we're seeing some very similar sets come out of both sides.
That is actually going to be really interesting, because maybe one of them will be able to get a Shadow Ball off on the other, unless the other one Terras.
Yeah, it's all about kind of who's going to Terra here. You know, it's a game of chicken, I suppose. You really got to be careful
Right.
about who's really going to be doing the damage here. And it looks like Hunter is going to go for his Terra.
And that is going to be the Fairy on the Fluttermane side. And honestly, I do feel like that Fairy is the best Terra on Fluttermane, especially when you want to have offensive pressure.
I don't think anybody in the meta is disagreeing with you there. Pretty much any Fluttermane's a good Fluttermane. You're going to see Scary Face come out of Tornadus. So despite the fact that, you know, Hunter was able to set up, you know, a little bit of Tailwind here, Fluttermane is still taking a bit of a speed drop. Ooh, you do see Moonblast come out into Fluttermane, and a special attack drop, which actually could be very significant here. The Shadow Ball coming back into the Fluttermane with Terra Fairy, it's not going to do much, even though otherwise that probably would have killed.
Right. And that honestly was such a great Terra on Hunter's end, or else that probably would have been a one-hit KO.
Absolutely, yeah. That was a really well-played turn on Hunter's part, and, you know, you can really see kind of just the skill oozing through Hunter. He's
Yes.
very, very smart about what he's doing here, and just the general mind games that him and Braden are both having to play with one another.
Right, and Hunter's going to be going for that Bleak Windstorm, KOing Brayden's, excuse me, Flutter Mane, and doing a little bit of damage to the Tornadus.
We're going to see a single target Dazzling Gleam come out into the Tornadus, and he is going to take a wow. That was an instant kill there. Wow. That was very impressive. So now that Brayden's kind of on the back foot here, he really needs to be strategic about what he's going to be doing now.
Right. I do feel like this is such a great position for Hunter. This could possibly be his game because he does have the advantage in Pokemon because he is 4-2.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Tornadus, it threatens a good bit of damage out of that Ogerpon if Brayden's not careful.
Right, and I mean, you can always claw back from just having 2 Pokemon, but I do feel like that Hunter is just putting on so much offensive pressure, especially with that Terra Fairy Flutter Mane.
Absolutely, big time.
And now that Ogerpon is going to be going into the Water Terra and getting that special defense boost, which is going to be so great for being able to withstand more of those Flutter Mane's attacks, if that can even be enough, because that Flutter Mane is really packing a punch with that booster energy special attack.
Well, that special defense increase is a pretty big deal for that Ogerpon. We're going to see Dazzling Gleam come out, instantly knock out the Chi-Yu.
Yes.
And it does look like this is pretty much Hunter's game as he just continues to clean up with what Brayden has left.
But that Water Ogerpon is going to go for the Ivy Cudgel into the Flutter Mane, which is going to KO it, but I think the writing's on the wall, and this is going to be Hunter's game.
Yeah, no matter what, this is going to be a pretty rough uphill battle for Brayden if he does plan to try to see this through.
Right. I feel like you could only do so many spiky shields until and with Rillaboom coming onto the field, I feel like that with now the Ogerpon being a mono-type water, it could easily go for that Grassy Fly to just whittle down that last little
He's
bit of health.
outsped. I mean, he can spiky shield and, survive for a little bit longer, but it's not going to be easy.
Right. It's only going to be just one more turn of surviving, which is unfortunate, but I do think that Brayden played really well this round.
Absolutely. Both players have played awesomely. It's really cool to see, how far they both took this, and it's been really fun to see Hunter come back from that round 1 loss.
Yes, I feel like that he was just able to showcase way more of the offensive pressure and the damage that his team can do.
Absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
And now that even though this opposing teams...
He goes for the follow me there to finish out that game.
I feel like that's honestly a really good way to finish out a game.
Yeah, I always get a kick out of that.
And that is going to be Hunter's game.
Absolutely. It was such a great thing to see both of these players and their great attitudes. And generally, it was an awesome game to watch, beyond the shadow of a doubt. They really were both very clever players, and I'm really excited to see how both of them do. Now, Brayden may not necessarily be out of it yet, but he really needs to play well for his last game next round. As for Hunter, he is probably here in Top Cut as long as he continues to, just do well. And I mean, honestly, even if he doesn't, he's going to do fine. He's in Top Cut. He's doing great.
Yes, and you can definitely tell from the way that he looked at the camera that he is proud of how he did.
Yeah, and he should be. Genuinely, you can tell that, he knows his stuff, he knows his team, and, that confidence isn't coming from nowhere, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Right, exactly. That was such a really good match, and I feel like that we were just really able to see just how much offensive pressure, even though Tornadus is normally a support Pokemon, how much damage it can do with the Bleak Windstorm.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it was just generally awesome to see. I really enjoyed every single bit of that match. But again, Hunter, he knows what he's doing. He was able to clap back. Even in a bad position, he knew how to come back. And I genuinely thought this was a pretty bad matchup for him.
Right, and even with a bad matchup, just the sheer talent and how he composed his team, especially with how much special attack he put into that Flutter Mane, plus the booster energy, it was really able to be his win condition and win him the game. It
was really awesome. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on our round 4 game. It was really awesome to see. And, we really look forward to, seeing what comes next and seeing, how this tournament ultimately plays out. So, yeah, thank you guys so much.
And we'll be back for round 5.